Okay, currently I'm watching Billionaire Bunker, which seems like I'm watching the first episode. It's like Fallout Squid Game energy, but billionaires in a bunker. And it's in a different, not different language, but they are talking in a different language in the show. It's a show, it's a series, but they say in like English, like audio. So it's like, I like green eggs and ham and everything else. That's how you do it. When I try to do it. That was too close. Anyhow, I'm gonna just note this is my IS review. It's my IS. I need a better ink. Sorry. My IS review, which is my independent study review, which you will get to learn. Okay, to the video. That's all I really did on that day. Hello Brigitte, it is me, Nathaniel Roldan, gonna make you this video of my independent study. With that out of the way, let's get into what you're really here for about. I put music in the background just to keep your attention as well, and as well, I'm sorry for talking very fast. But just so I don't make this an hour long, and I've done pre-recordings of these, so this is like the final version, hopefully, of how I'm gonna communicate things. You don't want to see the first version, I was sneezing still. But let's get to it. Time. This says that 3.5 weeks ago. This is terminology. I'm gonna go really quick with this. So this is the basic terminology of Houdini that I want to remember when it comes to Houdini. So there is HDAs, which are Houdini digital assets. They are like the FBXs of the world. They are like the PNGs, the JPEGs of the world. They keep all the information of like the Houdini in the thing. I'm riffing off that. OP, they are operators. They are the nodes of Unreal. Like if you want a material node, if you want a type of like lighting node, if you want a type of a timeline node, if you want a character node, etc., etc. Those are operators. SOP, surface operators. What are those? They are the nodes that are inside the folder of Houdini. It's just like a general location thing. So ops, in an analogy, is the stars in space. And then SOP, surface operators, is the space that holds the stars and even the planets in some capacity. And then the subnet would be something categorized as like the galaxy or the universe, in which holds up all those operators and holds the surface operators as well. And then that leads back up to a digital asset, which becomes the identity of whatever it is. Maybe that was a bad analogy, I'm sorry. And then a null is things that are your output, I would say. So that's why in Houdini, a lot of people typically label it as out. And then parameter interface is a lot of the parameters in which I think that's being reiterative, but essentially it utilizes nulls that I can adjust information of whole values, integers, colors, height variations, randomization, etc., etc. And are the foundations when it comes to importing information from Houdini into Unreal if you want to be procedural. So the biggest things here is that I learned how to install it. I will just say, oh my gosh, I can't highlight it, but essentially this is the file layout that they don't tell you so specifically, but I'm labeling it here just so I know that it's here. And then you need the right version, and you have to make sure that you check mark Houdini engine and show plugin content. You can have Houdini engine showing up or Houdini Niagara show up, but you need to show plugin content, because if you don't, then you're not going to see the plugin content. You're gonna feel dumb, like me. I felt dumb when I couldn't find it. I'm like, wait, and that took like a few hours until I'm like, oh, it's this. Learned more about the Houdini engine. That when I showed you this, it was the main thing is you have to create a session. If you don't create a session, when you pull up Houdini or you drag in an HDA Houdini digital asset, then you are unable to work in it. It will continually say failed, failed, failed when you drop in your HDA thing, or it will also say failed, failed, failed if you have an older version of the Houdini plugin in which you're in a newer version of Unreal, which has happened to me. So I had to get the newer version of the Houdini plugin so that way it can work in the newer version in Unreal. Those are those thinking things that I just had to catch, and now I know. And Houdini Node Sync is the thing that you can bring in geometry that's static into Unreal, which you said, wow, I don't want this. Also, I said, wow, I don't want this. So I'm just focusing on this in sessions. And basically everything else is just the context examples. The content example was an older version of Unreal, so I couldn't really open it. So I just looked on online documentation as more of a reliable result. We looked at Houdini tools in which you're able to like make like the pencil tool and like draw around things or like landscape stuff. So I might use that as my landscape tool. What I used for my landscape tool last time was Redrift as exporting out landscapes and procedurally adjusting it. You'll see why in not a few seconds of, not a few seconds, but like in a few minutes, because I'm going to show you a presentation of like how parameters work in Unreal and how it sort of chugs in a way. That's a little bit spoilers. But what I didn't know, right, was that I didn't know what parameters worked or how parameters could be exported into Unreal. I had the HDAs in there, but I couldn't really figure out how to actually put in the like adjust the parameters in real time. But now I do. And that everything is gonna go smoother unless I get more sick. That's the only thing. There's nothing stopping me anymore besides assignments and getting sick. Okay, so what I'm gonna go over is how to export HDAs that turn into subnets and making the parameters work. Specifically with my bevel test and a doc that I made. And essentially that was like what I wanted to do as well for my Seaport, which I'm still on the workflow of like, yes, I can still do it. I just had so much of trouble of figuring out like how parameters exported and any found limitations and quirks when it comes to parameters and how I explain it. And for the next few weeks, just so I can end off this recording, is that materials on doc refine iteration. You'll see it's at phase 1. I think phase 2 would just make it more like iterative. Procedural boats, I know I can do those. I just didn't know how to export the parameters. So they were like stuck in Houdini if I were to do this. Stone pathways and water walls, very easy. Physics in Houdini for materials, since I know that and just fluid dynamics in Houdini more because I've researched into doing it for my VFX. I am more tolerable than not to have some form of like waving flag or moving water in which it changes the material on a stone path. So that's why that's like after that. I think this will take more of the bulk of the time because of the possible rendering aspects, so I have to clock that. But otherwise, any form of procedural assets that come this way, I am for sure able to do it. Unless it is something to do with figuring out like UVing it correctly, or the normal maps on them like being like finicky if there's a duplicate geometry trying to attach to another point on the shape in Houdini. Hello, this is me again, Nathaniel Roldan. I'm going to give you a quick overview of my work process and how I'm going to do all of my Houdini things. I know I did that when I FaceTimed you the last time on like the 23rd, but I'm just going to have this recording for myself, and if you want to like look at it and how I go about things, and whenever I am trying to like showcase what I want to do, I'll be going through that. And also, I'm gonna put on some music in the background if you can hear that music, so it can keep your attention span as well. Focus, focus. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Essentially, I will be showing you how to do the Blender donut for Houdini, which is beveling a cube and showing those parameters into Unreal when I export. Then after that, I'm gonna show you my doc that I've made and showing you all the type of parameters whenever I'm thinking about it, and you can probably help me expand or devalue or like push back on the ideas of like what type of parameters I should like focus on more and not focus on more. Focus on more and not focus on more. Yeah, let's get out of the way. Here's how I do it. So you would open your Houdini and you pick the version that you're working in. Essentially, it is 21.0.44. What I'm going to make for my project, which is very simple, is a geometry box cube bevel. So what I can do is I can click on this side over here. This is the default screen. I could right click just to show my tab menu, and like it says, I can tab to open my menu. The first thing I want to make is a geo or a geometry, and I want to call it bevel cube. And then inside of it is all of our ops. So anything in the menu here, I would call it like an op, and that's what I mean by like it's like our stars in our like space that we're going to connect in our subnet. So we want to make a cube, right? So we can make a cube, and then we're going to call it something, call it cube, and we're going to want to bevel it. So luckily I know there's a bevel thing. Typically, there's a lot of nodes in here that I probably don't know if I'm doing something more complicated, so I either have to research it or just be like hard coding, be like, is there something related to it? And then if I can't find it, then I will search it up and look it up. So probably both. And what is this right here? Well, I will also explain it to you in case you're curious, is that this is a cross-section curve. What did that mean? So if I connected, let's say, a sweep. I know what a sweep does. You don't know what a sweep does. That's fine. But essentially, what a sweep does is helps it curve these beveled parts out. So, or sweeps it, if you will. So I just connect this to my input, and you see this outline over here. It's like, what is that? Well, when I click this, you only see the beveled version of the cube. But when I go to my sweep, this comes along. Yes, look at that. That's awesome. Without that, it's also there. But essentially, if I wanted to use that data of that sweep, and since it's like green, I could like sort of like put in other nodes in which it can like calculate that specific thing. But that's how that works. If I use like any other geometry, I believe at that point it doesn't really work. So we have bevel, so I'm gonna do cube bevel. And that's bad. So I'm just gonna do cube underscore bevel. The proper annotating way of spacing things out is having it underlined. Then I want a null, because that is my out, and I want to finish everything and put all my parameters in my null. So I will call it out cube bevel, or bevel cube, similar to what I have up here. Then I will go into here and figure out from this jumble of numbers and sliders in tabs what I want to change. Ooh, I like this. This is distance. I'm gonna call it bevel because it bevels it. Very nice. I think there's also divisions, which if I have more distance, I can show the divisions of it. So yeah, let's also have that as a parameter. That's kind of cool. So what I do is if I want a specific parameter, I have to hover over the name of it. I would right click on it and then I would copy the parameter. Then in my null, I would have to make sure my null is selected by seeing highlight in yellow. If I selected this and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm clicking the out bevel cube. If I click on the, oh, you can't see it. If I click on the settings bar over here, because these are my parameters, I hover over this and I right click on it and I do copy parameter. Then I hover and I click this and I click edit parameter interface. It's going to show all this and I'm going to be overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not what I want. I exit out. So make sure when you click on your null, which is your out, I want to click edit parameter interface and you don't see that all that hubbubaloo. That's great. So we can choose integer or float. Integer would be like any whole numbers, and you'll see like increments on them. I'll just like throw it up so you know what it looks like. And I want to go for more of a float. And the new parameter name is typically read into the Houdini system as something you can like call onto things. The label part is what it's just outwardly going to be named as. It's nothing much of just like a title for whatever it is your parameter is going to be. So I'm going to call this distance. I'm going to call it bevel. So I'm going to apply. And when I applied, you saw a little shaky thing and it worked. If I press accept, this tab would close. So I don't want that. So I will call this, I don't know, dist bevel if I ever want to like call onto it. Then I will do the same thing. I will call this distance bevel and dist bevel and apply. And I also change it. And I press accept. And as you can see, I don't think I can zoom. Yeah, I can't zoom. There are like little hash marks. So when I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you can see decimals. So I will go back to my edit parameter interface, and I will have to delete it within the parameter interface and apply. I cannot do it outside. So with that, I want my distance bevel to work. How do I do that? Well, I can go to paste relative references because I copied the parameter from my poly bevel distance, and it will read like that. You just click on it again, left click, and you can see it adjust. Wow, kind of cool. But look, it's so rapid. It's already gone to 4 and it's kind of wonky. How can I adjust that? Well, thank you for asking, Brigitte. Thank you for asking. Okay. What do? You go to distance and you go here on range. The range is 10 right now. Usually it's unchecked sometimes, so make sure it's checked. And you can take out the 0 and apply it and press accept. Then it will work. It's almost there. Boop. And as you can see, probably 1 is not good. And this is where the iteration process comes in. You're like, oh, maybe I did a wrong thing. So maybe it is 0.5. And then when that happens, you're good. Now I want to add the divisions. I want that. So what you do is you, again, copy the parameter, go back to your null, and you go to the settings tab, and you go to edit parameter interface. And then in enter interface, you want a float. I like floats. Floats are cool. And then I'm going to call this divisions. And I'm going to call it bevel because it's part of my bevel thing. And I'm going to call it div bevel. And then the range of this, see, it was off, so I checked on it, and let's see, when I apply, I can also just have this sidebarred somehow. I'm gonna just put it over here. And then I will have to click on this, right click, and then paste relative references, click on it again, left click, and nothing happens. Maybe I want to clarify that in the help section that nothing will happen when you're at 0. And this works here, and then this works here. So what do I mean by the help system? Well, I didn't really show you, I sort of spoiled it, is that there's this help section over here, and if I want to go to divisions bevel, I can write information for someone who's going to use the parameters that they know what's going to happen. So if distance, I'll just call it this, if this bevel is 0, nothing will happen. And I apply, and you see there's not really a visual change, but when you hover over it, you can see it. And this one compared to that one, you don't really see any information from that. And notably, again, the parameter 2 stuff is, I forgot to label this dist bevel. But again, you can like recall that information from whatever it is that you're going for. So maybe I want a lot of vertices. That's kind of cool. I don't know what that will look like. So these are the 2 parameters I want to have. Saying, why is this happening? Well, maybe because since it's reading at 0, it needs some form of division. So maybe we want the division actually to be at 1 and not 0, so it doesn't confuse the person. So when they go here, nothing happens still, but when they reach a certain point, they can reach it so that it doesn't bounce off the parameters. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's up to you as a person if you want to make it more clear to them. So I want these. So how do I export it? Well, or how do I make an HDA, which is a Houdini digital asset. That's what I was waiting for. I would highlight everything. I would right click, and then I would go to nothing. Because that was the old version. When you add the older version, you can create a new asset. And sometimes when you make a subnet, you can automatically see the new asset. So I'm just visually showing it here. This was on purpose. You go to assets. You go to new digital asset from selection. In the older version of Houdini that I was working on, it was also on a different tab. I think it was under the labs. But now since it's under assets, which makes more sense, it is here. So digital assets. And then it makes the folder, which is our galaxy or our universe that holds all the stars and the planets, so on and so forth, based on my analogy. And what do I want to call this? I want to call this bevel, final, subnet. Or I will call it procedural bevel subnet. And I don't really have to worry about directory. If you're familiar with Maya and how they just automatically make directories, this is what it's just warning of. So unless I want to connect it to my thing, which is in the home folder, and then you go to the right version of Houdini, and then go into your config stats or toolbar. You can link it up somewhere here, but essentially you can go to OTLS and then you can put in your information. But again, be wary of setting up this sometimes because it could break. because all the information is stored, and then you have to like try to take it out, and sometimes you cannot take it out unless you do that. That's also like a little tangent where you have a folder and you try to delete something out of the folder, but then the folder never deletes because it's like an old like cached file or something, so you have to go inside the file explorer and then delete that file folder in order to like actually extract it and not in Unreal. Anyways, we're gonna go to our desktop and we're just gonna save it here. We're gonna probably make a new folder for this because that'll be great, and I'll call it Procedural Bevel HDA because it's an HDA, which is a Houdini digital asset. And then we accept, and then we accept again, and then it'll warn us again about the pathing, but that's all fine because we just want the HDA. So, or the HDA and then we create. And then it will ask us this if you want to rename it. And this is where I choked a little bit. How do I export a parameter? Here it is. You go to parameter. You open your subnets. And within it is all your information. Notably, it's not hooked up. So make sure it's hooked up. If it's not hooked up, then it's not going to show and it's not going to work sometimes. It's either or both. Make sure that your out is also touching the flag. If it's not, then it's going to be finicky from what I've done. Then we go to our out. Then we click the information that we want. So it's like this. And we drag it. You'll see the little right arrow. So that's when you know you're holding it. And then you drag it in. And it's great. The one thing I hate is that it doesn't also put in the name or the label, and also formally that if I made this a folder, it's not going to drag the folder, and I will explain that even further in some capacity with my bridge or my doc. So then you drag this one in, and you're done. Happy crafting! So I have to like rename these. And then look at the values, if they change or not. See, the help is not there, so I have to say if this bevel is 0, then nothing happens. So I apply that, and then accept. And then notably, this is wrong. So we have to link it here. And then how do I resave it? You can exit out of your subnet, and you can right click, and it's called Save Node Type. That way you don't have to create another digital asset. You can also show an asset manager where your asset is, which is kind of cool and neat. And there is the digital asset thing right here. See, sometimes it's kind of weird. Maybe you want to save a copy, maybe you want to make a major or minor version of it, like saving it, but it doesn't show you like the new digital asset. You have to like click it from the top over here, which is kind of crazy. But that is it. And then if I want to save this project, I can go to my desktop and I can go to my procedural bevel HDA, and I can call it procedural or bevel demo. And then I can save it again just in case, and then I close. And then what I will see on my computer is also these. This is a side tangent, is that you have to make sure that your Unreal plugin is correct, and then your Houdini version is correct. You can do it via installing it right here, and then choosing another version. And then here are all the other versions. Make sure these are the correct build types. If they're not, then a little bit screwed. But notably, production and dailies don't really much matter in what they mean. Like I'm using this one and it's fine. I think it's just the type of like value you get from it. Anyways, here's the procedural thing, and it will look like this. It will say SOP whatever it is, procedural bevel, subnet 0. So it would be like the name of whatever you did it here, but it will always be labeled as such like this. Here is my bevel demo thing right here, and then any backup saves that I have. You don't really have to worry about these. They just make sure in case you delete this, you have backup versions. you have multiple backup versions so you don't freak out. I think no, backup versions here mean this. So it's not this. So if you delete this one, then it's like messed up. Anyways, let's open Unreal. Wow. Spoilers. Kidding. Here is my bevel stop, and then here is my bridge. That is very simplified, just to showcase to you what I mean when it comes to like being in the future. So what I want to do is two things, or two ways. I can go to the content drawer and minimize this and drag it inside, or I could go to content drawer and import it this way over here. Notably, in 5.5.4, there's a new fab tab. I think that's the only new thing besides in 5.4.4 that is different from what I recall as well, and also maybe new UI over here. I digress. What I have to also make on my own is an HDA folder. That's how I'm going to organize things. So I'll have to make sure that I create this. This is created automatically when you have the Houdini engine open. And what I mean by making sure the thing is, so I go to settings and I make sure show plugin content is checked. Sometimes it's not checked. I'm not going to uncheck it because then stuff is going to disappear, which is kind of bad on my part, so I don't want that. So I go to HDA and I go to import, then I go to my desktop, then I go to my procedural bevel HDAs, and then I go click here. Then it's right here. And then when I drop it in, it will show this. I'll let it cook. And then I rebuild. And then I save. Then I rebuild. I'm keeping this in. Just enjoy the music. If this is what it is, and sometimes that's why you hate it. That's why you have to hate on it. It's like, so faster. That's awesome. No editing. I had this Unreal open, and then you're like, wow, the session is also working sometimes. Also, yeah, make sure you create a session. But sometimes I feel frustrated, and sometimes I just step take back, and I'm like, okay, wait, maybe I just gotta close it, and I gotta open it again, and I do. It works. So that is what I go through sometimes. But here, you can see now the Houdini parameters. This is the older version, so it only has the one bevel. But you will see on the right side what I have to go through. So if I dragged it, you will see it says finish process output. And look, we can see it change in real time. See, when I drag this way, it's kind of finicky. But you can see it move, which is everything I want in life. And you can do that, and you can do this, And then you can make a bevel. That's awesome. This is great. When you hover over it, it says the message. If this bevel is 0, then nothing happens. In this one, this was not say anything. Notably, this one did not say anything either. Notably, when you play, there is no collision when you're working with a Houdini asset. So make sure you do that. Also, when I do my bridge, I will drag my bridge out. My dog. Remember scaling. This is just an example, but when it goes into the game, this is what it looks like. Sometimes you have to be like, oh my gosh, do I just shrink it? Well, when I play the game, this is a HDA. You can go through it. You can probably put collisions on it in Houdini, but when I was finding videos on it, there's not a lot to do with collisions, but more or less when you interact with it, like a notion of like fluid dynamics. Like if I was walking through water, I would have to have some form of collision in order for it to make it work. This one, also, you don't have anything with that. But when you're on this one, there's collisions. How did I do that? Well, what I did was I went to the Houdini engine thing, details panel, and selected my Houdini asset. Then if I like that size, if I like that iteration, then I would have to click bake right here. And notably, what are my parameters? So I'll just showcase some here. So my parameters are these. I'm gonna move this. I have folders, which were like in Houdini, so I can actually pull it up here. That this is my subnets, my base, which is the flooring here, the planks, which are there, the pillar, which are these, planks, which are these, and spacing, which are these. And notably, you don't have it connected, Nathan. What are you saying? Sometimes in some capacity, it's better to have the subnetwork connected input to like any form of like geometry, but since these are cap geometries, it is better to have that and just making sure that it's the output. I think that to me, when I figure things out, is like the crucial thing. If you don't have it connected to your output, then it won't actually work as a result of things. So keep that in mind. But essentially, from my out bridge that I made, let's look at my parameters. There are folders here, and the folders are just this. This is what they look like in Houdini, and then in Unreal, this is what they look like. Because I saw, ooh, that's kind of cool. But it's kind of weird. Like if you had it like all the way hidden, you're not gonna like see like a drop down menu of how things are like, but it's kind of cool in how it's all separated. So if I reset this, so bridge extension. What is bridge extension? Well, this is the default, but resize obviously of the bridge, and I could scale it in the X direction, going infinitely. I can also do it in the Y direction infinitely, and then I can go in the Z direction infinitely. And that's an exaggerated rule. Pillar spacing is these, just like how much pillars I want. So if I went in the Y direction, no, wrong one. I even said what I want in the direction. I mean the X direction. I can go with like bridge pillars and like space them. So let's say like 100. I can space them that far, or I can go exaggerated with like 40 or something. Or no, let's say 2. Okay, let's say 1. I guess 1 is the max. When I was doing like the maxes for these, you can't really max them out. I think the values of these are 1, 1.5, and 1.5. But you can go above it, which is kind of weird. But that's one of the finicky things that I've found out when I did like parameters on these. Like I thought I did, but I guess there's not. You can go above it. Yeah, so that's weird. I think I would want to make them like separate variables. At the same time, that's one of those things where like you have to specifically say like what it could be or not. Anyhow, with geometry transform for the planks, what do I mean by this? Well, it is just to like size it up so I can like stretch it. So I could do like 5, I could do like 10, I could do even like 20, and it's just going to like expand it. Maybe I don't want the bridge to be that far in scale. Maybe I want to do like 0.5 or like 0.2. And then maybe I want like railings on the side over here, so it's like a dock over here, but like the stone pillars are still like going about. That's an option. So I just stretch it huge like that. Maybe I want the divisions to be like 4. Oh, okay, wait, no, I know what divisions are. So it's like if these are adjusting in the planks. So I have to like zoom in more, so there's that, and then it's sort of there's a weird deform. It doesn't really clearly show, which was very interesting when I was. And then you have the fence height. So how tall the fences are. I think at this point it's like Niagara, where like I can have like a very system where like when you have different pillars, they can like adjust in different capacities. And then I can adjust the height of the pillars themselves, so like they can like some of them could go out of the water, but overall they all go out of the water. But if I don't want them to go out of the water, then I go like a higher number. No, I go like a negative number actually, sorry. And then I can like raise it up. So they can be like a dock of some sorts. And then I can do like fence bevel, so it makes it more smoother than geometric. I can do like a fence radius, which it like makes how girthy they are, so I can have like very like puffy pillars or very thin pillars. And then you have like the fence shafting, which is sort of like how many faces it has. So if I want to make it like more smoother, then I want that. Maybe I want less pillar faces, spacing. And then when I'm done, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. I love this type of bridge. Oh my gosh, that's very cool. I love this dock. I want to walk on this dock. Oh wow. You can sort of can. And I think because of just like how close-knit it is and everything. But if you want to create FBXs, if they're like this, then how do you do it? Well, I can show you. What you can do is you go to content drawer, you actually no, sorry, not drawer. You save and then you go to bake, and then you can bake it as an asset. But notably, you can bake it as an actor as well. But all assets go into the Houdini bake folder. So you go to Houdini and then it goes to bake, and then you can drag out it if you want. And sometimes it's very giant, so I guess you have to scale it down. Was the other one giant too? Yeah, I guess it was giant as well. I forgot about it. When you this, you save. There's no collisions. So again, it's kind of weird when you're like, okay, you have this, and then you have collisions. One of those buggy issues. So how do you do this? And notably, I didn't put any collisions on this. So you would go to your static mesh here, go in it, and you can mess around with the hole counts and the vertices, and then you can apply. And then you can get it. Or you can grab an FBX actually in Houdini, and if you like in Houdini, you're gonna export the FBX, drag it in here, do the parameters in which you have to do the checks on the checks off of like what type of FBX you want, and then use it as a parameter to better get the collision. But that's reverse utilizing like it in engine, like seeing it in engine. You can, I guess, use the, what is it? The Houdini and then Houdini node sync, so you can get that geometry and drop it in. That could be also the case. But since this now has geometry, there's now collisions on it. And it's like, which is the better collision? It's like you go here or you go here. And there's sometimes like invisible collisions, so you just have to like tweak it. But I think the better option would be, just via explaining it, is taking the FBX of what you like and then putting it into it. But I think the downside is that you won't be able to see it in Unreal actually working. You would have to make sure that you work on this, then you have Houdini on the side, put in those parameters for that, and then export it through an FBX format. So that way you can get the collision for it. But here's this one, and here's a better version of the collisions. There's not like a thing, but it's very subtle. So my thing that I have to figure out is always tweaking the collision aspects of these, and also putting